So today I'm on my annual pilgrimage out to Kerrville, Texas. It's about 2.5 hour drive for the Texas Furniture Maker Show. And this is something I try to go to every single year because it is the best of the best in our part of the country, putting their greatest work from the past year or two on display. And it is a competition. They do have first, second places. I'm not sure. There might even be a monetary reward, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. But it is a major prestige award. And this is kind of a singular location where they can actually reach a lot of their target audience, because, you know, this is kind of a rarefied air where people are buying, you know, pieces of furniture that are $10, $20, $100,000. And that's the makers that kind of seek out that audience. You don't get a lot of places that you can display your stuff. This is one of those places. And every year I get a lot of inspiration from it. And I was thinking this year I was going to skip it simply because of the COVID situation. But last year I took my camera. I got permission to film the show. And the video I put up, you know, it did okay, but one of the major comments was that people appreciated because they couldn't make it that year to go see it. They wanted to see it because they take inspiration just like me. With that in mind, I think even more people aren't going to be able to make the show this year, so I think it's worth the risk. So I'm going to go ahead, and I got permission to film it just like I did last year, and I'm going to walk the show and gather as much inspiration as I can. And I say that because when I go to this type of event, this type of show, I look at the entire work out there and I think to myself, there is not a single aspect that I couldn't accomplish, that a beginning woodworker couldn't accomplish. We have the skills. I mean, it's sawing to the line, chiseling to the line, working a shape with rafts and stuff like that, you know, applying finishes. The knowledge to accomplish these tasks is readily available out there. It's the fact that these people have not only applied all that knowledge into a very cohesive manner, but they've not applied a lot of knowledge and not overthought a lot of stuff and made things simple and elegant. And that's the kind of stuff I really appreciate, because it's a cohesive aspect of an entire piece, not the fact that they could cut a dovetail, a groove, or a hidden joint effectively and well. Now, I want to clarify, I'm not an expert, I'm not a furniture judge or stuff like that. I am a amateurish woodworker, and I'm doing this because I appreciate what they accomplish, and I want to steal as many ideas as I can. So, come along, and I hope you enjoy my thoughts on the Texas Furniture Maker Show. Well, here we are, and because first impressions are always important, I always like to just do a quick walkthrough right from the beginning just to see the highlights of what's out there. And then I'll do a deep dive into the individual elements. This show is normally done up with a tooled museum piece. Looks like they are combining them this year. So right when you walk in the door, some really cool tools. That is what you call a jointer. You put the legs in right here, and you actually use this one upside down. Look at that. Pretty cool. Fancy little bow saw. I don't know why, but I think the old timers probably took a little bit more pride in the tools because they actually had to make them. But normally this is a separate show from the furniture show. You can tell there's a German heritage in this part of the country. I don't want to know what that was used for. So here's the main gallery, and as I said, first impressions are always important, especially if you're trying to draw attention to your work. So here's what we see right when we walk in the door, and I would do a quick montage of a lot of the individual pieces. So I'm a wood turner, so the first piece that I kind of want to examine is this bed right here because of all these turned pieces. Now when you see turned lengths like that, that's always impressive to me because it's the smallest diameter that induces stability. And when you get it fairly thin like this, it wants to vibrate on the lathe in the middle. It causes a lot of problems. And I was wondering how he did something that was that far across. But this gentleman has very, let me even see it, right there. Can you see it? He actually separated these into two different pieces so that is not nearly as long as that. That's a turning process. And I can somewhat tell that this was probably done on a duplicator because if you look at these curves, this side is a little bit straighter than that side, and it's consistent. Straight curve, straight curve, straight curve. The variables that make it look really handmade is this top, which is probably accomplished through the sanding process. But either way, that is very nicely done. Though I always have a problem kind of judging the overall aesthetics of beds, and this is just my imagination, but it really does need the mattress to see what it's going to look like, because this one right here, judging by the limited number of slats and the height of the sides, it's actually designed for a box spring and then the mattress on top. So the box spring probably comes up right underneath there, and then the mattress comes up about halfway. So I don't know if that gap right there is going to show once the mattress and pillows and stuff are in there. The taller gap from the front to the back is obviously accommodate pillow backing and stuff like that, so that you get the full length of that right there and that right there being a proportion of it. Pretty cool design. The only element that grabbed me was that transition right there, because you have such a cool curve right here. I think it might have been kind of cool to curve that ever so slightly to duplicate that. I don't know, just my thinking, but my initial impression of this piece right there is that straightness kind of drew me out of a lot of the turning. But then again, there's not a mattress and pillow there, so I can't really judge that. I do want y'all to take a look at this piece right here, this corner piece. That's done out of a solid piece. And notice how the grain is angled sideways. If he had just cut that out of a board this way, it would have been weak right here because, wood tends to split. But now he's got the grain coming as long as it possibly can be in every single spot to increase the strength. Consideration of grain from the get-go is one thing that people at this caliber do so much better than a lot of us. And it's knowledge that we all know They just apply better. Now we have two chairs here juxtaposed against each other. This one done by Victoria Freeman. This one done by Wayne DeLay. And I wanted to point these two out because look at the angles of the chairs in relation to the curves, in relation to where the center of gravity will be when you sit in them, in relation to the distance the legs travel, the different purposes and stuff like that. That's kind of one of those chairs being so difficult to grasp the human form because we're all so differently. And that's one where this one took that into a lot of consideration, according to her card right here. This tiny lounge chair, which won the judge's special award, it looks kind of low when you get down to the ground, but you gotta understand, it's a lounge chair. You're gonna be leaning back, your knees gonna be hanging over, so that distance between your knees and legs would be fairly comfortable because you don't have to go straight down. You can kind of relax them out a bit. But one of the things that drew me to this particular chair is a seat material, cork. I don't know why I hadn't thought about that, but that is brilliant. It's firm, but it has just a tad bit of give. I really like that idea, Victoria. Now, Wayne from Granbury, who took the People Choices Award, his piece really stunning. But once again, analyzing the ergonomics of how it's going to be sitting, the center of gravity of the person inside it, the lengths of the legs, the distance here so that you can get the rocking motion going onto it. All of that has to be taken into account when you design these things. But one feature I want you to pay attention to is his use of stretchers. This laminate stock of Texas walnut and maple, that laminating is incredibly smart in my mind, because I see a lot of people, especially in Texas, they'll put mesquite on their legs right here, and mesquite has such a short grain on it. I always thought it would be a weakness, but laminating, well, even if it flexes or anything like that, that just adds so much strength to the fact because of the different characteristics of the woods. And that laminating carried through, not only from those legs, but the backsplats. Did you catch that? They're laminated walnut maple. That is an element I haven't seen anybody else do, and I really like that. It brings it all together, top to bottom. Now, Warren made this lion themed with the feet and the sculpture. The cathedral's kind of very Greek, but what drew me attention to this piece is once again grain. I'm going to walk around it. I want you to see how at each one of the seams it's book matched. Book matched. Book matched. Wow. Can you imagine when he split all these out? One error and those would not work out that well. That right there, attention to grain, attention to minor elements, and executing without messing up any one of these. Or if he did, he started completely over. Wow. And speaking of grain matches, once again, watch the seams. Watch those seams. Just wow. And how he did the checkered board on the interior. Really nice, Robert Kelly. Now, Dan Gonzalez made this piece right here. And I'm going to admit to you, I'm not really a fan of industrial furniture, where it's steel legs and just slabs and stuff like that. But I can really appreciate this right here. Not only did he find a piece of grain where the curvatures and the cathedrals meet in the middle, he took the wood into consideration. But look at this joinery he did on the legs and how clean that is. That is something I can appreciate. Once again, another chair, this one done by Whitney Moore. But little subtleties. When you first look at this, you don't realize the splay from the front to the back of those arms, but it's pretty much duplicated in the legs. And as you work your way around it, it changes from very thin and light to a little bit heavier. I like that. That turned out really, really cool. And it's a variation of the industrial that I haven't seen before. Okay, I'm going to butcher this name, but I believe it's Gupen Chen. I will tell you, I don't know how you did this. This piece of plywood furniture is phenomenal. Look at that cutout piece right there. Bends around and becomes the leg. That cutout piece right there bends around, becomes a leg. Same with the bottom piece. Its two main pieces form this structure, all joined with through mortise and tenons and kind of half laps, I guess. This is cool. John Burton made this, what appears to be a really simple side table with just a gorgeous piece of wood on top. But once again, you got to take a closer look at everything. I want you to pay attention to the grain. When you have a wild grain for the top, everything else needs to be purposely muted. So you look at this drawer piece. Straight grain lined all the way across. How straight is the grain? Even look at the grain running along the top. Straight all the way across. Nicely finished out. Hand cut dovetail. Even the bottom's nice grain. But look at the grain running down the legs. Really straight. And then there's little elements. Do you see this tiny chamfer on these corners? Just to give yourself a nice shadow line. Really impressive, John. Casey Cohen made this little piece right here. And this one you kind of have to sit back and analyze, because it's a combination of completely natural and completely engineered. The rail cross, that's a glue laminated curve, perfect circles throughout, and then completely natural elements everywhere else. So those were perfectly engineered to utilize nature's elements. I kind of like that, especially that little use of the knot. Remember me talking about high consideration of grain, even in a tabletop that is split down the middle, as you can see, by the spline joining them. Nice element right there. But take a consideration of the grain as you walk around it. Is that not a cool visual effect? You know he planned that out just to get that six-sided tabletop design. Now, right here we see a nice little bar setup. This was done by Rex White, which means, once again, you got to take a closer look. Look at how he glued up the seats. Getting the center crest rail with the grain curving just perfectly to create that design effect. I mean, most of us, we just glue up half and half, but doing it in three pieces just so you can get that element, way cool. And then the piece de resistance, I love how he did that right there with a little bit of brass for right where your feet sit. Makes it easier to clean, easier to maintain, and much more durable. And check out this chair by Collis Hairstrom. I'm sorry I'm mispronouncing the name. Cool design, but it's how he put it together that fascinates me. Because look at these massive legs. Those are good half-inch sections that he had to bend and glue laminate up. Wow, I can't imagine the press he had to do that. Same for this back piece right here. Look at that. It's one continuous piece of glued together laminates. Wow. I like that. Mike Roberts took second place this year. With a simple little table design, right? Not so much. Check out the segmentations all the way through. The amount of skill on the lathe to execute that well, truly awesome work. Robert Kelly's Texas Star table. I mean, not only is the base a 3D Texas Star, but the artwork on top, that's nice. And check out Bill Price's folding table. Look at how he accomplished the folding aspect. Is that not cool? Stops, braces to lock it in together. Wow. Simple, elegant, nice edge treatment. And then the main piece. Look at that veneer work. Even some metal in it. Wow. Joe Adams and Eric Elfelt got the Texas themed award. Look at their use of worm, eaten wood, leather, stitching. Pretty cool. But I really can appreciate this kind of, I don't know, basket weave setup right there. I like that. Don Curry won the Society of American Period Furnitures Award with this piece right here. Why don't you take a look at that center section right there? I think that's kind of cool how he did that. Not just joining them up simple, but dividing it into 3 pieces. That's pretty nice. And how he continued on the grain. Look at that. You see the grain piece of this one? Makes a line follow through. Is that not cool? And nicely carved hands. I've never really sat in a chair this design. I think it'd be pretty comfortable. Now this piece by Bruce Phillips, it might be my favorite of the show. Oh, I guess it did win Best in Show. I just noticed that. The reason why I like it so much is the tactile elements of it. Yes, the upholstery and stuff, but look at this. Your hands move across it, and it's got these nice carvings on it. That little element right there just did it for me. Very classic design. Takes into account tradition. Looking at those legs with a little beam, the inlay, about 3/5 of the way down. But it was those carvings that did it for me. I really like that. Now, of all the pieces I've seen so far, there's one piece that I really do want to try to build myself. And it's this piece right here from Ted Gleck. I'm mispronouncing your last name. I apologize. I am not a fan of a lot of this live edge stuff, especially really, really rough stuff like this. But the execution of the distances from both sides, the amount of space in the middle, that center beam having a very straight machine lined up there but letting it go natural underneath, the angle of the legs, the through mortise on top, and just the overall proportions. I'm about to start building a garden, and I would love to put something like that in my garden. I'm going to try and make something like that. Now, I am a sucker for a nice cabinet. This particular one by Janet Trotter on a nice little stand. Very well executed with grain alignment, joinery. I like how she finished the back on it and stuff. I love the little chamfers right here. But with the one element that really drew me to this was the bottom of the cabinets. She used 2 pieces instead of 1, this one being ever so slightly bigger. Most of the time we put a big wide piece on top, a thinner piece up top, but those doubles down below, that is just such a cool idea. I love it. And the interior, equally as well finished out. But that double board on bottom with a slight chamfer, That is such a cool idea. So there we go, the Texas Furniture Makers Show. I'm basically in this museum all by myself. I only saw 2 other people here today, which to be expected, and there weren't as many pieces this year, but the quality, as always, was up there, and I was able to grasp a lot of the ideas I want to steal. I like that garden bench. I love the tactileness of those little carving elements in that one sitting bench. I like those bar stools, how he integrated the 3 pieces instead of 2 or 1. And he aligned the grain down the butt crease. Again, I'm not a furniture person. I don't know what that's called. Let's call it a butt crease. You had a nicely developed butt crease in that chair. Really liked it. And whenever I start doing more steak furniture, I think I'm going to incorporate that thin centerpiece. It really worked well in my mind. This plywood table, I still don't know how that was done, but way, way cool. Now, these kind of events, they happen all over the country. Yeah, they're not in every city because there aren't that many high-end furniture makers. But if you get a chance to go out to one, spend a good afternoon browsing, absorbing ideas, and kind of trying to figure out how they did it. Because again, nothing these people do is beyond the reach of even a beginner woodworker. It's all the skill and execution that they put into them that just blows my mind. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. Be safe, have fun, and remember, it's always worth the effort to learn, create, share with others, though I didn't create any of these.